Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
We've had a fun morning, haven't we? It's been a blessing. Today, we're going to talk about overcoming disappointment. And we're going to be studying the second part of Joseph's life, because it's full of disappointment. He's had his ups and downs. You know, one of the best times in a child's life is Christmas. It really is. They look at Christmas, as I still do a lot, as an exciting time when it's magic in the air. It's lights. It's wonder. Look at children and all the awe they have for things. And my wife, who has to pull out 40 different tubs of Christmas stuff. I look at that and go, aw. But it's wonderful because I love Christmas. I was talking to Dwayne and some others this morning about how we should decorate this in Christmas season. Now, I remember one year Christmas, right after Star Wars came out. My friends had Star Wars toys, action figures. I didn't have any yet. So I would go to their house and they'd let me play with some of their not so cool looking ones. But I still got to play, right? Well, I went to Mom and Dad and said, Mom, Dad, you want to help me out? You want to make me popular with my friends? I know you do. You don't want me in the house all day bothering you. So if you would buy me Star Wars figures, I would not be in your hair at all. I would be gone. I'd be gone so much that you would wonder, no, did I even exist? And my parents took that and said, really? I'm like, yeah, please, I promise. How many of you parents ever heard your kids promise you something? Mine. And they heard me do it a lot. And a lot of times, I kept most of that promise. Well, Christmas came along, and the rule in the house was that no one touches any presents. If you were caught under the tree touching presents that Santa brought, that you would not get to open any of them. Now, you could stand back and look all you want and point all you want, but until Mom and Dad got out of the bedroom and had breakfast, which my dad would take forever cooking scrambled eggs, gravy, homemade biscuits that he never made before, and bacon. And we're sitting there looking at all these wonderful presents, and my little brother and my little sister at the time were pointing out, that one's mine. Oh, that one's mine. That one's mine. And I'm looking at it going, okay, oh, that's definitely a shirt. That's for me. I can tell that box. You can tell that box. That's definitely a package of underwear. You can tell how it's wrapped. That's for me. And all I could find was clothes. I was like, I asked for toys. I asked for Star Wars. They should be in packages like this and this thin, They should be littered everywhere, and there was not a one. I was looking at this going, wow. I can tell that's a toy for my brother, that's a toy for my sister, and I can pretty much guarantee what it was because I remember what they wanted. I was starting to get disappointed. Mom and Dad come out breakfast after we've already scarfed ours down, and Dad and Mom start sifting out presents. And of course, what's the first ones they give you? The clothes. So we get our clothes, and I'm opening them up thinking, okay, they've hidden a Star Wars figure in my clothes, because that's how my mom's brain works. Hide the presents in other presents. So I'm digging through the clothes, and I'm like, okay, that's a Dallas Cowboy shirt. Kind of wanted that, but okay, I'll put that aside. Oh, package of socks. Thank you, Mom and Dad. Love the socks. Package of underwear. Yes, I needed that. I know I did. But thank you. So I'm drooling, going, okay, now where's the Star Wars toys? Where are they at? Where are they at? My mom starts giving my brother his toys. My mom gives my brother or my sister her toys, and I'm still waiting. I'm thinking, then she pulls one out of the tree and goes, oh, here's your Star Wars figure you wanted. Oh, joy, one figure. Okay, but it's one. And then behind the tree was a box. It was way bigger than this. It was about that much bigger as I remember, and about that much deeper, and about that much wider. And my mom says, I wonder who's this to? It doesn't have a name. I'm like, Mom, yeah, I know who's that. That's mine. Santa left that for me. Because you got to play the Santa card because my little sister. So, Mom, Santa brought that for me. That's definitely mine. Are you sure? Yes! I don't know. Maybe I should let your dad. No! That's mine. Dad's already got his gift that you wrapped 7 different layers of wrapping on it. And 3 different boxes. That's mine. She goes, well, if you think so, she hands it to me. I open it up. The first layer was newspapers, and it's about that thick. I'm like, one newspaper? Really, Mom? You gave me a box of newspapers? Then I rattled, and I could hear things. I'm like, Mom got me a newspaper, and I'm throwing a newspaper out, and then I pull out Star Wars figures. Not 12, not 24, not 36, but 48 Star Wars figures. Now, my mom and dad told me from about October on, that they were looking and they were looking and they couldn't find any because they were so popular. And when I opened that up, all that disappointment for the whole morning, watching my brothers and sisters open up other things, all that went away in a flash. Because I had 48 Star Wars figures and I was going to be the top dog on the block. Because I had more than anyone else. I didn't care if I didn't have the Millennium Falcon. I didn't care if I didn't have the Troop Transporter. I didn't care if I didn't have any of the other accessories at all. I had cool action figures. Now I know some of you like Wayne, like, please Ron, that's so old. Yeah, Joe was a thing. Right, Wayne? One where you look through the eye. I had one of them, by the way. Fuzzy-headed things. But I was stoked. My disappointment was all gone. And then I started looking through them all. You know what? There wasn't one stormtrooper in there. Now, if you're a Star Wars fan, you understand stormtroopers were the cool bad guys. I had all the good guys. And I thought, at first, I'm like, well, it's kind of disappointing. And then the light bulb hit. You know what? My friends probably don't have any of the good guys. They have a lot of the other guys. Let's trade. So that day, I was calling up my friends. Guess what? I got 48 Star Wars figures. I don't care how many you got. I got 48, all right? Just listen. And that's the old times when you had to pick it up off the wall and rotate the dial. And they were so stoked that I had all these good guys that they didn't get. So that day, after we went to my uncles and we went to my grandparents and then to sit on the couch for a couple hours, me playing with a couple of my toys that I could bring with me, got to go over to my friends' houses and we traded out. And it was the best Christmas ever. What I thought was going to be disappointing was the best ever. Because I had Star Wars figures, and as you see, I still have my Star Wars figures. I am not, I got a, in the back there. I'm not going to give them up. There ain't no way. I've seen some people do that, but that's my childhood. And I still play with them once in a while when my wife ain't home to catch me. Because I think it's cool. I do. I live my youth. I love my youth. But Joseph didn't have a youth. Joseph was 17. Joseph was sold by his brothers. Joseph was going to be a slave. And that's where we're going to pick up Joseph today. Where life should be very disappointing for him. Because you remember from last week, he's in a robe. Which meant he was the manager. He was the top dog on the farm. And now his brothers strip him of it. And his brothers sell him to some guys who aren't going to be nice to him. They're going to take him to Egypt and they're going to lock him in either a cell for display, or they're going to put a collar on his neck, or they're going to hobble his leg to something else while they set up their merchandise for people to see. And that's Joseph at 17. When he was on top of the mountain, he's at the bottom now. Talk about disappointment. God, where are you is what he must have been thinking, but he does not go there. And for some reason, Potiphar, the head general of Egypt's army, is traveling through on his chariot. He's going through the marketplace with the gold and the silver inlaid on it and all the gems that show he's the important guy. He's trotting through and he sees that market and he sees Joseph and he pulls up rein. Now you won't see this biblically, this is my interpretation. But he looks at Joseph and he's eyeing him. He's a stout young man, pretty handsome. I could do worse having him in my entourage. And, you got to look pretty good if you're going to live in Egypt and you're going to be around the high guys. You got to look good, not your average look. Because it was all about how you looked. So he asks the people how much they want for him and he pays the price for Joseph. Then he takes Joseph. And he introduces Joseph to his house. And he says, Joseph, this is how I rule my house. This is how my house runs. As a servant, you're going to do this, this, and this. Now, if you do well in these areas, I might give you a little more. And if you do well in that, and down the road, you might earn a little more. So I'm going to encourage you to do well. Learn my language, learn our culture. And there will be rewards to follow. And that's where we're going to pick up with Joseph right now. We're in chapter 39, verse 2. I'm reading from the ESV version today. The Lord was with Joseph, and he became a successful man, and he was in the house of the Egyptian master. We're going to read on in verse 5, from the time that he made him overseer in his house, and over all that he had, the Lord blessed the Egyptian house for Joseph's sake. The blessing of the Lord was on all that he had in his house and field. So let's look at that for a second. Joseph goes to Potiphar's house. Joseph becomes a slave or a servant, and he's working in Potiphar's house. He's not going to get anything out of this except for better living conditions, better attitude from his master. But Potiphar notices something about Joseph that's different than all of his other servants or slaves. Joseph carries a smile about him. He carries an upbeat attitude. He's not letting his servanthood go to putting down. He's like, oh, good, look what I get to do. Yes, thank you, Father, for giving me the opportunity. He's thankful, and he's working hard. And Potiphar notices this. So Potiphar says, come here, son. You've done a great job. And everything you do, if I send you out to go work those fields, man, they grow. If I send you to tend to the sheep, they do great. If I send you to the cattle, they do great. If I send you with money to the bank, somehow I get more money out of that. I don't understand, but whatever I tell you to do, I'm growing money from this. I'm going to put you over everything then. I'm not going to worry about nothing. You're in charge of my whole house, which means Joseph becomes the butler. You know, in the old English movies where the butler runs everyone else? That's Joseph. He runs the complete house. He has complete freedom now to go where he wants, to do what he wants, and when he needs to do it for Potiphar. He's no longer what you would call a slave. He's more of an indentured servant without being able to pay for his freedom. And so he has free reign. He even probably gets the hobnob with some of the upper crust in Egypt. And I'm sure Potiphar is showing him off as well, saying, hey, come here, guys. See that guy over there, that young man? Yeah, he works for me. Yeah, see, he's done me great. You know that horse trading I did the other day? That was all because of him. And look at the stock I got out of that. And you know, the bankers were not doing so well over in that bank. Well, he went over and kind of hinted how they should do better. And I benefited from it. I got a bonus from him. Don't y'all wish you had Joseph on your side? I know you do. But you can't have him. He's mine. And I'm blessed from him. So then we go on to verse 6, I'm sorry. So he left all that he had in Joseph's charge. And because of him, he had no concern about anything but the food he ate. Now I can't explain that except for saying maybe Potiphar had some enemies. And so Potiphar always worried about eating something that came from someone else's table. And so Joseph had to be there to watch, and Potiphar still was like, okay. Or maybe he had a digestive problem. And he had to watch what he ate, because maybe he's not a young guy anymore. Fried food isn't his friend anymore. And collard greens might not be his friend anymore. So he's kind of got to watch what he eats. So of everything that goes on in his house, the only thing he's concerned about is the food he's eating. I'm telling you, that's a pretty relaxed guy right there. If he's got no other cares about going on except what goes in his stomach, that's a wonderful life. But then we go on to Joseph. He's on the high right now. He's as high as he's going to get in Potiphar's realm. God knows this. But God's with Joseph. But something's going to happen to bring Joseph way down, horribly down. And that is that Joseph is a good-looking young man. He's a strapping young man, you might say. And Potiphar's wife notices this. And I'm going to assume that Potiphar's wife's not that old herself. But yet maybe she was given in marriage to create a union between two factions, and Potiphar benefited from it. So therefore, he has a young wife. He's always out running the military, never at home, because he has to leave Joseph in charge. And so she looks at Joseph and says, he'd make a nice bedmate. So she lures him into the bedroom. And he does the right thing, and he flees Dodge. He runs and leaves his coat there and is out of there. And when Potiphar comes home, well, doesn't a good wife play the good part? But she lies and says that Joseph tried to do something to her that she didn't want. And here's the evidence. When she screamed, he fled. Potiphar doesn't listen to anything Joseph tries to say. He just instantly, and we know this, because in verse 19 of chapter 39 it says, as soon as his master, that being Potiphar, heard the words that his wife spoke to him, this is the way your servant treated me. His anger was kindled. Not just temper, but anger. Outrage, anger. So Potiphar does the one thing that he should do to anyone that disappoints him. And that is, and Joseph's master took him and put him into the prison, the place where the king's prisoners were confined, and he was there in prison. Let me describe to you this prison. You have your regular jails, right? We have our regular jails. You go down the road by where Dwayne lives and you'll see the sheriff's jail. It's not maximum security. There is guards. And the life there is not so bad. Then you move into some really bad prisons. Let's go down to Mexico for a moment, shall you? Mexico, you don't want to ever be in there from what I hear. They might forget to feed you for a week. They might forget that you exist totally. Till one day they find you dead. You'll find fleas, you'll find rats, you'll find lice, you'll find bed bugs, you'll find all kinds of things in your cell that you don't want in your cell. That's kind of the look that Joseph's in right now. He's not in the average prison. He's in a place that the king puts people, or the Pharaoh puts people where he doesn't want to know they exist anymore. Where no one knows they exist anymore. And Potiphar goes to Pharaoh and says, look, this guy did this to my wife. You need, wait, not you, I'm sorry, sir. Can I do this? And Pharaoh obviously grants him permission. Potiphar's temper's beyond control. He doesn't even think logically. And here's Joseph, who's done nothing wrong, and the highest peak he can get at this point. Now he's at the lowest peak. Can you imagine the disappointment he must be feeling? I'd be very disappointed. I'm like, I did nothing wrong. I did everything right. Don't you know me? Yet, here's where he is. And nothing good is going to happen in a place like that. Unless your name's Joseph. If your name's Joseph, God is just working with you constantly, no matter where you're at. Kind of wish my parents named me Joseph at times, you know. Here we go. Verse 21. But the Lord was with Joseph and showed him steadfast love and gave him favor in the sight of the keeper of the prison. Verse 22 says this. And the keeper of the prison put Joseph in charge of all the prisoners who were in the prison. Whatever was done there, he was the one who did it. You see, Joseph isn't in that prison for very long, and the prison keeper realizes Joseph's a special man. He's a pretty wise guy. He's an upbeat kind of guy. Apparently, when he's in the prison, he doesn't do this, but he's doing this. Yep, here I am. That's cool. I can make this work. I'm not going to be put down. I'm not going to let this get me down. I'm going to make this work for me. And so he does. And the jailer looks at him and says, come here a minute, I want to talk to you. I like you. Your personality is different than everyone else I have down here. I need some vacation time. Would you mind handling things and keeping things running? And Joseph's just like, no, I'll do that. And then before you know it, Joseph's improved the living down there. To the point that I think other prisoners are like, whoa, it's Joseph. Hey, man, you're right. You got rid of this out of our cell. You got this in our cells. Thank you, man. I mean, we're living in darkness by oil lamps and torches, but you brought the sunshine in here. We like you. So Joseph has turned his prison into a nicer place to live. And the jailer's like, this is cool. My life's easier. I don't have to listen to people whining 24/7 at me. They seem to be a little more happy about being in here, and this is great. Joseph, you're in charge. Run it, man. I'm going to sit back. Which means that Joseph then gets to be friends with the jailer. He doesn't have to spend his time in his cell anymore. He can go hang with the jailer. He can roam anywhere he wants in that prison, as long as he doesn't leave the prison walls. That's his comeuppance, you might might say, for doing what's right. He's getting blessed again. Now, we wouldn't all say it's blessed getting to live in a prison. No, that's not a blessing to me. I've known a few prison guards, and they're like, Ron, that's not a place you ever want to be. Whether you're working there, visiting there, or a resident there, you don't ever want to be in there, trust me. Because I've often said, I'd like to take a tour of a prison. I know. What they show on TV is nothing which you will experience there. The smells you don't want to experience. Trust me, you don't want that. I'm like, okay, I'll trust you on this. So while this is going on, Pharaoh had a party. His baker upset him. His cupbearer upset him. Now, I don't know about the baker, what he did wrong to upset Pharaoh, but maybe he burnt Pharaoh's cake. Maybe he burnt Pharaoh's food. Maybe he served Pharaoh something that Pharaoh didn't like. Didn't realize, here's the menu, but he went off menu to do what he wanted to do. Show his skill. But Pharaoh said, absolutely not. Send him to my prison till I make a decision on what to do with him. And the cupbearer, I don't know what he did wrong. Maybe he splashed some juice or water on Pharaoh. Maybe he didn't grab the cup quick enough for Pharaoh. Maybe there was a fly in Pharaoh's drink and he didn't catch it. But any way, shape, or form you look at it, Pharaoh sent him as well at the same time as the baker to the prison. And Joseph's there. Now we're going to read that Joseph is going to get a responsibility. And that responsibility is seen in chapter 40, verse 4. The captain of the guard appointed Joseph to be with them, and he attended them, and they continued for some time in custody. The captain of the guard, not the jailer, the captain of the guard, the guy that surrounds and keeps order in the prison, walked up to Joseph and said, Joseph, I know who you are. I like what you do. I can trust you. Pharaoh's not made a decision on these two guys yet. He might call them back, and if he does, they need to be in top shape as the day they walked in. That was my orders, that's your orders. Keep them in good health. Keep them looking good. They're in your care, so make it happen. Joseph takes on the duty. Joseph becomes really good friends with these guys. They become close friends. There's so much that Joseph can tell when they're upset, when they're not upset. By just a carry of their face. How would you like that, dude? Being told you have to take care of someone, keep them in good health. When they're living in a pigsty, you got to make them look like they're living at the Ritz. That'd be a hard job. We move on, and we're going to see that they're going to have some dreams. Joseph says, hey, I'm willing to tell you your dream. God's going to help me. When he realizes that they're not happy one day. So the cupbearer goes, here's what it is, Joseph. I was dreaming that I was standing and a vine came up and 3 branches came off and fruit grew on it, and I was holding Pharaoh's cup and I started squeezing the grapes, and then Pharaoh accepted the cup from me. Joseph says, that's a great dream. You're going to love this. You're going to love this because in 3 days, Pharaoh's going to come knocking on the door, and Pharaoh's going to ask you back, and you're going to go serve in Pharaoh's courtroom. Joseph puts a boon to the cupbearer, though. He says in verse 14, only remember me when it is well with you, and please do me the kindness to mention me to Pharaoh, and so get me out of this house. Because in 15 he gives a reason, an argument. Why? For I was indeed stolen out of the land of the Hebrews, and here also I have done nothing that they should have put me into the pit. Joseph looks at his friend and says, look, when you get back in Pharaoh's good grace, now I know it ain't going to happen this week, and I know it ain't going to happen next week. It's going to take some time, but you're going to have Pharaoh's ear. And when you see there's an opening in the servants, would you drop my name in? Would you tell Pharaoh how great of a job I've done here, how well I've treated you? Would you give my reference to him? Not just because I want out of here, but I've had some injustices done. And if we're really good friends, you're going to understand that I was kidnapped. And that wasn't cool. And I was sold. And that wasn't cool. And then I was thrown into this here prison when I didn't do anything wrong. And that's not cool. And the cupbearer says, oh man, you're my friend. Of course I will. I'll do this for you. Well, the baker hears this great dream report. He's like, oh, Joseph, I got one too. It's great. It's just about as good as that, guys. I had 3 things of bread on my head. And I'm walking around, and all of a sudden these birds start eating my bread. And it's all gone. Isn't that great? That must mean the Pharaoh's going to take me in because my food is that good that the birds love it. Joseph kind of sighs. Kind of probably rubs his chin. Looks up a little bit. Looks at his friend. Looks away, and his friend's like, come on. Joseph says, all right. Here's what's going to happen. 3 days from now, when Pharaoh comes to get the cupbearer and take him back, 3 days from now, Pharaoh's going to get you too. But you're not going to serve Pharaoh anymore. You're going to be executed. I'm sorry, friend. That's just what it is. Well, that's really what happens. 3 days later, Pharaoh comes in, grabs him, takes the cupbearer, puts the cupbearer back in his cupbearer status, and then executes the baker. 2 years are going to go by, and Joseph is going to serve in that prison. 2 years, Joseph is left wondering, did his friend do something wrong? Where is his friend at? Well, he goes to the jailer and says, hey, have you ever heard Pharaoh talk about calling my name up? Yeah, I mean, you've been in some circles around there. Have you heard anything? Goes to the guards and said, hey, have you guys heard anything? I've not heard anything yet. I did ask. You guys would consider me a worthy servant to Pharaoh. And they're like, oh, yeah. Disappointment. Why am I not being called up? Well, we read why he's not called up. In verse 23, yet the chief cupbearer did not remember Joseph, but forgot him. Man, a disappointment. Joseph took care of this guy. Joseph made this guy feel comfortable, even in a pigsty of a prison. Joseph spent all of his efforts for these 2 guys and had this guy promise, basically, to talk about Pharaoh or tell Pharaoh about him. And yet, the minute the guy gets out, the minute the guy gets the cup from Pharaoh and puts it in Pharaoh's hand, who's Joseph? I don't know Joseph. Nah, I got to worry about myself. I don't know anything about Joseph. Talk about your disappointments. Your best friend betrays you, basically, is what that is. That's very disappointing. Joseph worked hard to get where he got in Potiphar's house, and a lie took him down. Joseph then works hard in a prison. And then a bad memory keeps him there. He has every right to be disappointed, does he not? Every right. He has every right to yell at God and say, God, this is not fair. God, I disagree with your decisions right now. But that's not what Joseph does. And we know this because Joseph is still friends with God and God is still friends with Joseph. If Joseph were to question God and say, God, I'm done. I'm not going to follow your ways anymore. I'm going to choose my own path now. God would not have blessed him. So we know that Joseph stayed faithful to God even through those rough times. We all have some disappointing times in our lives. One of them is when you go to the grocery store and you buy a loaf of bread. And you got the conveyor belt running. And if you're smart, like I know you are, because I've learned from several people who are older than me how to lay your groceries on the conveyor belt, you put the heavy stuff first. Then the bread and the eggs are the last 2 things you put on there. Because you're trusting that this bad boy or bad girl knows that all the heavy stuff on the bottom and then the very light stuff on top, right? That's what you count on. Well, you get your groceries, they're stuck in your cart for you, you're paying, you don't pay attention, you just trust. You get out to your car and you're putting the groceries in. You realize, where's my bread? Did I leave it in the cart? And you turn around, it's not in the cart. Then you start looking through the bags and you find that bread, that fluffy bag of bread that you spent 10 minutes pinching and twisting and moving and smelling to see if it's softness. You find it crushed under some of the other items. Talk about your disappointment, because you can't just take it back in and say, hey, I want a new loaf of bread. I've never done that. I just wouldn't do it. I mean, if you can do that, I don't know, but I don't do it. I just accept it and go, okay, great, I got a crushed loaf of bread. Melissa's not going to be happy because you can't stretch it back out. I've tried that. It doesn't work. Another time, you go to a restaurant. And this happens to me a lot. You get your wife and you decide, hey, let's go to this restaurant today. Great. I already know what I want to get, right? It's your favorite item on the list. And you're sitting there, and some of your friends go with you, and you all order. 10 minutes later, here comes the waitress back. She goes, who ordered this? Well, I did. I'm sorry, but the last order just went out right before I took your order. So you'll need to pick something else. So then you're looking through the menu, and your friends are like, come on, Ron, you're holding up our food. She will not place our food until you get your order. So I'm like, okay, do you have this? No. Oh. Well, do you have this? No, that's off the menu too today. Well, what do you have on the menu? You know those disappointing days, right? You've been through them. It's like, really? I had my heart set on that. My stomach was growling for that. I was drooling for that. And then you ain't got it. Well, what you do is you go over to that table, because that guy I know walked in the door after me. Waitress, and he's got what I want, so go get it from him, because I was here first, okay? Let's go do that way. They won't do that, by the way. You can ask, but they definitely won't do that. And then finally, the worst one ever is when you're a child, and you have your ice cream cone, and there's the door. And you're walking out, and you tap the door, and there goes your ice cream cone. You just got that ice cream cone, and you look at it, and it's melting all over the sidewalk. And you grab your cone, and yeah, you have a little bit of residue there, but it's not the ice cream you wanted. And you know that the 5-second rule does not count for ice cream cones, by the way. It does not count. You have to leave that ice cream cone where it is. And you watch the ants scurry up to it and enjoy your ice cream cone. That is probably the most depressing thing, the most disappointing thing there is to happen to someone. Because that's your ice cream cone on a hot day. And it's now on the ground being enjoyed by ants. And you want to stomp on it, but you know you get your shoes dirty, so you don't do that. Nope, can't do that. Now, of course, I jest or I joke about what is the worst day, the worst disappointment you can have. But here truly is the worst disappointment you can have. The worst disappointment you can have is the day that you get to heaven. And God opens up the book, and Jesus comes over, and he's looking. Name? No. No, you're not there. I'm sorry. You can't come in. But you're like, wait a minute. I tried my best. I walked the path with you. Jesus says, no, as I recall, you walked the path, but it wasn't my path. It was a path where you allowed disappointment to move you. You allowed disappointment to take you away from me. You didn't deal well with disappointment, so you gave up on me at this point and this point, and you chose your own path. My opinion, the reason why churches are faltering now so much is because this is a world of heavy disappointments, and they don't know how to deal with it. The people in this world growing up do not know how to deal with disappointments because they get everything they want for the most part. Or they're shown by others, well, you just force your way to get what you want if you can't get what you want otherwise. And they don't learn how to deal with disappointment with God in their lives. So they walk away from God and choose what they want. So let's look at how can we deal with disappointment. How can we overcome it? How can we do better? The first thing is, don't get bitter. Remember last week that bitter monster? He's going to hold you, he's going to corrupt you, and he's going to corrupt those around you. So the minute you feel about getting bitter, about a situation that didn't go your way, just walk away from it and say, you know what? I can smile because it does not matter. Apparently that's not what God wanted for me. Not right now. So I'm going to walk away from that. And I'm going to leave it right where it is. And I'm not going to think about it again. I'm not going to dwell on where I used to be or what I could have had. I'm going to dwell on where I'm at right now with God. And that's where I'm going to be. I'm going to drop my bitterness. Secondly, we're going to do like Joseph did. We're going to pray, and we're going to wait on God to move. Joseph could have ran away when he was in Potiphar's house, but he didn't, did he? He stayed faithful to God. I guarantee you he was praying every day to God because he was a faithful Hebrew. And he waited on God to do what God wanted him to do. If God wanted him to stay in Potiphar's house, he was going to stay there. But if God wanted him to move out of that, he would have moved with God. It didn't matter to Joseph. When it came to the prison, he was free to roam inside. You don't think he could have easily found a way out? I think he could have. But he didn't. He prayed and stayed faithful and waited on God to move. When we get ourselves in rough situations or we're living in a rough situation, We pray to God and we ask God, God, I need you to move on my behalf. I'm going to stay faithful to you. I'm not going to let this alcoholic parent, I'm not going to let this drug parent, I'm not going to let this child of mine who has now moved back in with me drag me down. I'm not going to do it. I'm going to stay faithful to you, God, and I'm going to keep a positive outlook. And then thirdly, you keep on doing what's right. We know what's right down deep in our hearts. We know what is wrong down deep in our hearts. And it's up to us to choose to keep doing what's right. When our problems mount up so bad, we could easily resolve them by probably doing something wrong. Many a criminal thought that they could resolve their problems if they could go rob someone or steal from someone. But it turned out that didn't work out well for them, does it? Most of the time. God says, I want you to keep doing what's right. Look at Joseph. He did it. He did it when he was in Potiphar's house. He did everything right. And he was rewarded. When he was in prison, he did everything right. And he was rewarded. And next week, we're going to see the full fruits of his righteous behavior. What God is willing to do for us when we're right with him. Let's go ahead and close in prayer now. And then I'll